Box office top 10 at 28. Scala with 3 exclamation marks.
Which, we've already talked about briefly. I just think it's terrific, and I think that anyone could enjoy it, whether you'd ever been to the Scala and, experienced the majesty of it firsthand, or if you'd never heard of it. We did a screening at Exeter University to students who were, in their early 20s, some of them from overseas, never heard of the Scala cinema, loved the documentary, went down like a house on fire.
And presumably there are Scala equivalents in most countries.
Yes.
They'll have their own.
Yeah, and also, in many towns. I mean, in Manchester, we had the Arban, for example. But the Scala was kind of, there's a bit with, John Waters says, I've seen my movies in lots of cinemas. The Scala was the wildest I ever saw.
Number 10 in the UK, 11 in the States, Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Which is done pretty decently, although I have to say I did find it underwhelming. I mean, I do think that the whole of the Hunger Games series sort of declined over the time, so...
Number 9 in the UK, number 2 in the States is Night Swim.
Now, I haven't seen this. We were off last week.
Here's a review from Tony Allen.
Thank you.
It's incredibly boring and already in my worst films of the year list.
Wow, okay.
I mean, that can't be much of a list, can it, given January?
Yes.
And everything.
Okay. Well, I look forward to catching up with that then.
Number 8 is Ferrari.
I think I like Ferrari more than many people. We've had some correspondence with people saying, shonky special effects, which I didn't think at all. I'm a big Michael Mann fan. Despite the fact that they are speaking English in the Italian, it's not the full House of Gucci, but I thought it was well told, and I'm not a motor racing fan, but I thought it was gripping.
Wish is at number 7.
Mm-hmm. I wish it was better than it is. It is just like it's like if you said to ChatGPT, make me a generic Disney movie that references the history of Disney over the last century, and it went, okay, there you go. It's called Wish.
Boy and the Heron is at number 6, number 12 in the States.
I really liked this. I thought it was absolutely terrific. It's very disturbing, as it's meant to be. I saw the subtitled version. I haven't seen the dubbed version, and I know that people have said the dubbed version, which features the voice of Robert Pattinson, is actually very good. So I would like to see it again in the dub. But the animation is great. It's lovely to have another Miyazaki. I know some people were kind of slightly lukewarm about it when it first came out, but I think it's really something.
Speaking of which,
okay.
I was just thinking when you talk about subtitles, that email that we had a couple of episodes ago from someone who said, I genuinely prefer a film to be dubbed because if you are reading, you do miss some of the action. And I thought, okay, that's a legitimate point because you do spend a lot of your time at the bottom of the screen or occasionally at the top of the screen. But anyway, here's an email from Michael. Having just watched Hayao Miyazaki's final version 2A finished definitely last movie, my thoughts. To preface this, I am by no means a diehard Studio Ghibli fan. While I have enjoyed many of their films, the total number I have seen can be counted on more than one hand, but less than 2 full hands. You could just say like 8 or something. The Boy and the Heron started off fairly strong. The striking animation style during the film's opening fire scene gave me flashbacks of the runaway scene from The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Have I got that right?
Kaguya, but yeah, exactly.
A Ghibli movie which I adore. However, as the movie progressed, there were ever-increasing plot points that evoked past Miyazaki films to the point where I started to question if I was actually watching a new movie or just a recycled one with new packaging. The retrodden plot points of the young protagonist moving to pastures new, finding nuggets of a fantastical world, being fully swept up in this new world, meeting random strangers who they immediately and implicitly trust and obey, helping said strangers with odd jobs, then cue the cute money-printing creatures a la the doll-like Kodama. It all felt too familiar. As we were approaching the last act, Miyazaki seemed so intent on maintaining the momentum that the protagonist, Mahito, is barely even given more than 5 seconds to emotionally react to any situation, delivering his lines with a deadpan sternness, and scenes are rushed along, allowing neither the situations nor our characters the chance to breathe. It's probably due to this that my emotional engagement towards the end had waned, to the point where I admittedly started to doze off just before the film's climax. As the film finished and the credits rolled, I couldn't help but laugh at the contrast between me almost falling asleep and a fellow patron behind me, who I could tell the film had had a profound effect on, as I could hear them sniffing quietly.
Right, yes. Well, that would have been me.
This by no means takes away from the genius of Miyazaki, and despite my personal grievances, still a fine swan song or heron song to end on. One other point I'm adding here, courtesy of Child One,
Okay.
who said he thought "How Do You Live" is the original title is a much better title, and The Boy and the Heron makes it sound like a children's film, which it is not.
Yeah.
But I think "How Do You Live" does feel like a better title.
Yeah. I mean, there's the thing about titles changing, throughout different territories is one we can go into in great detail. But yes, I agree with. It was Child One said that.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
He's a Ghibli fan.
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, I agree. I'm surprised that. Well, no, I'm not surprised. I'm saddened that the film didn't have more of an emotional resonance with you. I mean, when you list those things and say, well, it sounds, it's retreading this, that, and the other. I mean, it is a late period Miyazaki in which, of course, all those elements are, there because they're there in his body of work. I mean, I remember when we were talking about The Wind Rises and people were saying, well, it's the beautiful closure to his career, which of course it then turned out not to be, because he did carry on working. I mean, but I think when you're at this point in your career, the fact that you're taking influences and elements from the whole of the rest of your filmography, I don't have a problem with that. However, if it didn't engage you emotionally, if you did find yourself in the, just ticking things off, then it didn't work for you. And I'm sorry that it didn't. It did work for me. I found it disturbing and moving.
Number 5, number 3 in the States, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Saw the poster and I thought, well,
what did you think when you saw the
I
poster?
thought that looks rubbish.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That's a great poster because it is. I mean, firstly, I think we've all got to the point of really. I mean, really, Jason Momoa seems to be enjoying himself, but then it's his franchise. Yeah. Everyone else looks like they're just kind of picking up the check. As I was watching it, I was trying to think of how would you sort of pithily sum this up, and I came up with this: if this washed up on a beach, you wouldn't try and resuscitate it.
Fair enough.
You'd just leave it there
to die slowly.
That's right.
Number 4 is Anyone But You,
which I haven't seen, but it's the new film by Will Glock. It's apparently an update of Much Ado About Nothing. And of course, Will Glock is a bit of a hero on this program because he came on the show after we had kicked the living daylights out of Peter Rabbit. And he came on and he was charming and funny and fought his corner. And he just shot up in my estimation. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Number 3 is Priscilla. Ewan in Norwich.
Yes.
My partner and I went to see Priscilla after Robbie's review piqued our interest. Neither of us are very aware of the subject
Not after
matter.
my review piqued your interest.
I'm afraid that's what Ewan is.
I reviewed it first.
To continue, we were both left pretty disappointed in the film.
Can you just say, thanks to the production team for leaving that in? Welcome back, Mark. Did you have a nice Christmas? Yeah. Did you miss me? Apparently not. Carry on.
I think...
Yeah. Sorry, have they just said, I should say this. Have you seen the pictures that Robbie Collin posted on social media of himself with his shirt off?
Why would he do something
because
like that?
He looks like Superman.
Okay.
He's been working out in the gym for however many years. He's printed 2 pictures, one of them of him looking like most human being, and another one, he's oiled. He's oiled, he's buff.
Is that the reason for this reaction?
He's hench, apparently. He's hench.
I don't think we can get away with that. So is that the reason why you're annoyed?
No, it's because I reviewed Priscilla first, but carry on.
We were both left pretty disappointed in the film. It starts very strong. From the first scene, there is a sense of discomfort as Elvis begins the process of grooming a 15-year-old girl. Kaylee Spaney does a great job of conveying excitement of being Elvis's chosen one, but also the fear of being a child preyed upon by a grown man 10 years older than you. Great setup, and you get the sense that this is all going to end very badly. As the film goes on, however, the threat of abuse gives way to a quiet abandonment and emotional immaturity. Brief flashes of anger, but unfortunately the film fails to escalate from its initial setup. The film is sometimes stylish, but not always. No amount of nostalgia will make the beehive stylish again. I'm left with a sense that the film pulls its punches. Is this a flaw or the authorized biopic in general? I totally understand why Priscilla Presley wouldn't want the film to escalate in that way. I also had to tell off a man at least twice my age for talking throughout the whole film.
That's really annoying.
He was telling his friend about the time he went to Graceland and saw the amazing carpets, and his wife kept on saying, "What's going on? How old is she? What was the age of consent in West Germany?" I mean, you'd be forgiven for being annoyed by that, and also not knowing off the top of your head what the age of consent was in West Germany.
Can I say, I may be being presumptuous, but I think that thing that you've just added about that annoyance probably didn't do the film any favors at all. It is a very, very a finely judged film, I think. I think the fact that it's not that it pulls its punches, it's the fact that Sophia Coppola asks you to make your own decisions about this without sensationalizing, without overtly judging. It just says, this is how the situation is. I think from what I know about Elvis and Priscilla, it is a pretty accurate portrait. And I would contend that having that annoyance going on in the cinema might be enough to derail your enjoyment of the film. I'm not saying, look, go back and watch it again. You're wrong, because I'm an older person than I was when I used to say those sort of things. Which
you
I
still
used to
think it?
No, I don't think. What I think is, I was trying to figure out why somebody would have that kind of negative reaction, and the fact that thing about people talking in the cinema and being, I think that might be enough to derail it, because I think it is a film which is, it's kind of gossamer thin apparently, but actually has depth. But you have to let it float.
Have to let it float. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I think it has grace and and I think it flies, but I think it could be quite easily grounded by somebody going, oh yeah, I went to Graceland. Incidentally, I've been to Graceland. The carpets aren't anything to write home about.
I wonder why he wanted to talk about the carpets.
People are weird.
Anyway, I mean,
yeah,
I can understand someone saying, what's going on? How old is she? And so on. But
yeah, but it's
kind
of like you've gone to see a movie about Priscilla Presley. Surely a little bit of background. Anyway, never mind.
Number 2 in the UK is One Life.
It's a very, very moving adaptation of a real life story, which has been, described as, a kind of an echo of Schindler's List. 2 very good performances by Johnny Flynn playing Nicholas Winton in Younger Life, Anthony Hopkins playing him in Older Life. Directed by James Hawes, who I think does a very good job of telling a story that is very moving and unexpected, particularly in its sort of later movements. Did people like it?
Someone who's calling himself or herself Glengarry Glen Ross 7127.
Okay. Glengarry Glen Ross, I get, but
yes, so do I. But it makes it sound like a bot of some kind. Anyway. This is the first film I can ever remember watching where no one moved for 30 seconds after it ended.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's like no one wanted to show disrespect by being the first one to stand up and leave.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's partly to do with the subject matter.
Yeah. Green Giant, 2007. This is also on our YouTube channel. Even though I saw the original That's Life episode from the 1980s.
Which, of course, is in the film.
Yeah. And I knew what was coming. I still shed a tear at the end, as did many people in the cinema with me today. It was both uplifting and incredibly depressing. Uplifting because Winton, with the help of his team, made a huge difference to the people of Czechoslovakia and saved 669 children, which the filmmakers estimated to equate to 6,000 people who were alive as a consequence.
Yes.
It was depressing because, looking at the terrible scenes of refugees displaced by war, I was reminded how little we have learned from history.
And again, I would cite that thing I said before, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Jonathan Friedland of The Guardian,
yes,
on his podcast, which he does, called Unholy with Yannick Levy, making the point that he had enjoyed the film, but he was giving a black mark to the marketing people who conspicuously avoided saying that it was Jewish children who were saved. That was just not mentioned. And,
really?
Yes, and which he obviously attributed to the fact that would maybe they would feel that wouldn't play well in the current media climate. But it is true that in the marketing there was no reference at all to the fact that it was Jewish children, overwhelmingly who
yes, I mean,
saved.
yes, very, very much largely. Yeah.
Anyway, so
okay, that thought hadn't even occurred to me, but okay.
And the UK number 1 and the US number 1 is Wonka.
It is what it is.
Excellent. But I mean,
no. Listen, it's clearly
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, and I was talking to a friend of mine whose partner has now seen it 4 times.
There you go. Well, it's doing what it needs to do.
It's doing what it needs to do.
It's the Christmas and New Year #1 here and in the States.
And I also think that it is one of those things which is, people want something that's uplifting and touching. I love the songs, obviously. And it's, it does what it says in the tin, and it's made by people who know how to do that stuff. So
thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.